so let me recognize ECRISAT at this point in time for organizing this exhibition and forum for us to share on matters to do with smart food. And also recognize Radical, as he said, we have collaborated from my past assignments up to this point in time while in India. And so this is a topic, moderator, which is really quite interesting. And I remember collaborating with ECRISAT in my previous work at the Ministry of Agriculture in Kenya on matters to do with smart food. And therefore, bringing in the question of smart food, looking at it more specifically with the collaboration from the South-South countries or the Global South, is something which is timely. And I would say the reason why we need to collaborate more in the Global South is because of the synergies which we can build together. It's mainly because of the state of our economies, which seem to be similar. We seem to apply almost similar technologies when we do things. And therefore, it's imperative that when we are handling and focusing on driving markets for the smart food, that kind of collaboration is very important, because even within the South-South countries, we have difference in terms of the levels of technological developments of which other countries can benefit in. And therefore, collaboration in that matter is very critical. But even coming closer between Kenya and India is the fact that there is already a lot of collaboration in many areas, which includes areas to do with agriculture. And we need to leverage on the existing relationship, the existing frameworks which we have developed between ourselves, between Kenya and India, so that we can have the smart food and create markets for these types of crops and foods between India and Kenya. I know we have various understandings and MOUs which are existing, and therefore all of us and the actors, the players in this business should take advantage of that. Getting it more clearly is opportunities in the area of collaboration, before I go very fast on driving the smart food markets, is can also be, especially between Kenya and India, can be handled through the kind of training arrangements which are existing. We have the ITEC program, which is being run by the Indian government, and it's supporting African countries in terms of training. And therefore, this exchange of ideas will be handy, especially focusing now on smart foods. The IGCR programs also coming for specialized training in terms of research, and all these kind of things can also be undertaken. Say that some bias is put, and ECRISAT and maybe the policymakers can tailor-made modules which will specifically handle these foods. In Kenya, these foods were, or these type of crops had been neglected, and they used to be called orphan crops. I'm happy that the name changed over time, and now they are never orphaned anymore. They are now smart food. And thanks to ECRISAT for the kind of work you are doing in Kenya in terms of promoting these kind of foods and ensuring that the Kenyan population really come to understand the importance of this food. Knowing the kind of awareness currently existing in ways of living health, it is very important that we all come together to see how we can produce and market these smart food products. And if I can start with the production, the main challenge in most African countries or in countries in the Global South, including Asia, is how to change the perception of the farmer to appreciate the role these kind of foods play. We talk of millet, we talk of sorghum, we talk of groundnuts. This kind of food which have higher nutritional value is how to change the mindset of our people to realize the importance of these foods, say that they can be produced on scale. because the kind of challenges the farmers are facing in Africa at the moment is low productivity issues. It is very critical. We have non-existent seed systems in most African countries when it comes to production of these kind of foods. Agronomy is a big challenge. Mechanization is another important issue which needs to be looked at, because most of these crops traditionally have been done using manual labor, and therefore to accelerate production of these crops so that it can meet the requirements of the market, owing to the fact that with the current awareness of healthy living, the growth in demand for this food is evident. And for the demand to be met, there has to be some push from the production side to meet the demand. And therefore, the kind of agronomy, the kind of mechanization models which could be existing in some other places of the global south, and which need to be shared with other countries, is very critical for farmers in all the countries to improve their productivity. There's a lot of exchange which needs to happen here. There's a lot of technology transfer which needs to take place at this point in time. And therefore, the purpose of increasing productivity and production is to ensure that even this cropping business in itself makes business sense to the farmer. It's because unless this production of this smart food makes business sense, it becomes very difficult to convince production to take place. And in this case, we need to minimize the cost of production as much as possible. And that is why technologies will have to be introduced at the level of production. And I'm emphasizing production level because even if we have a lot of benefits of these foods and the production is limited, or production is really not emphasized, then the whole value chain collapses. And so, and this is the area where it is the beginning of the viability of the business of production of the smart food. And so there has to be some intervention at that level. And that intervention can happen either by through state or non-state actors. There is a role governments must play to ensure that policy interventions will have to come across, will have to be put out there to support farmers in terms of productivity and in terms of availing and accessing some of the inputs which are required to produce specifically these crops, which is going to help even governments reduce the cost of hospitalization. Because with the nutritional value of these crops and food, you will realize most countries will actually be saving a lot in terms of hospitalization and medication. And so policy change has to happen. There has to be some deliberate effort to ensure that serious support is directed towards the production of these foods. Moving up, research institutions also have to be developed in these countries, beside exchanges or exchanging technologies between the countries in the global south. Each governments must deliberately fund research institutions, say that better seeds, better agronomy, better understanding, even sensitization of the farmers and even the consumers, bringing out the benefits of these foods has to be communicated. And that can only happen by understanding the dynamics existing in each particular country, because they are always different. And therefore, investments by governments has to be there. And in most cases, the funding of research institutions must be commensurate to the role to the agricultural sector plays in the economy. The other issue which over time I've seen, and even in my previous life I saw I was a major hindrance to productivity and production, is access to credit or funding. Most farmers may want to do a good job, but owing to limited or lack of funding, it becomes now difficult. And therefore, because farmers cannot be supplied with free money by government or non-government actors, access to credit becomes a critical role which needs to be developed. And this can be developed again through government policy intervention and also through private sector coming in to avail cheap loans for the farmers. Moving up the value chain is now, when production side has been fixed, then we need to ensure that there's an uptake or off-taker of all these products. How then are we going to build synergy between the producers and the off-takers, which would then facilitate consumers to access these smart food products? And therefore, the issue of involving industry, food manufacturing industry, is very critical. Processing needs to come in very handy so that we can add value. And for processing to happen again, the technology involved in the processing and all these kind of things need to be present. How can we bring out low cost kind of processing technologies to our farmers and to the intermediaries in our various countries? What has actually blocked out value addition is the cost of processing foodstuffs. We know technologies exist out there, especially here in India, where low-cost processing technologies exist, and these are the areas where collaboration really need to take place, so that we can share some of these technologies, so that farmers or farmer groups in our various African countries can come together and process their products ready for market. Issues of packaging has to be looked at very critically, because again, it would facilitate the logistics of distribution. The product range, the product portfolio. One thing I realized when I came, and this is something which I think India has done very well, especially in the milk sector. A similar thing would easily apply in the processing of these crops. Look at Amul. When I went to Amul in Gujarat, I realized that they have more than 100 kind of products from milk. And I am sure with research and other activities, we can find very many products out of millet, for example, out of groundnuts. And the minute we value add some of these things and produce many more products out of them, we are creating market for the producer. Looking at the peanut butter, and sensitizing people not to use. I'm not going against Blue Band. I know the manufacturers of Blue Band might take me to task when I say this, but it is more healthier to use a peanut butter than the Blue Band. And therefore, the cost of a groundnut, if you look at the cost of groundnut, is so cheap, while the cost of peanut butter is so expensive. A mechanism therefore has to be developed inside that whatever it costs, the final product cost, trickles back to the farmer. One of the major challenges in Africa, especially in production, is the fact that what the farmer gets at the end of the day is far much less than what the intermediaries here get in marketing their product, the farmer's product. And therefore, a mechanism has to be built inside that whatever benefit of the value addition is achieved should reflect the cost of buying this product from the farmer. And therefore, building markets, not only within the countries, but the global markets is very critical. And this would involve sensitization, it will involve communication, it will involve a lot of marketing in terms of changing the mindset of consumers from consuming the normal foods into including these products in their staples. The information we have is that any staple food comprises of around 70% of of eating, if you could say so. And so if we can even have 30% of your basket of meals in a day consisting of the smart food, then we will have made a bigger stride in ensuring that we build a more healthier community than before. And therefore, the benefits of the smart foods need to be communicated and communicated very clearly, because this smart food has always had a very backward perception in the past. It has been seen as food belonging to the poor. If I pick the case of Kenya, if you talk of millet, anybody eating millet is not a modern guy. It's not the cool fellas. It is looked down upon as meant for the people who are not doing well in society. While millet is actually the most nutritious food you can imagine. And therefore, this mindset needs to be changed. This can only be changed by communication, by using various media in communicating. And again, at this point, I would want to congratulate ICRISA for what they are doing in Kenya in terms of changing the perception of the consumers as far as this smart food is concerned. A good example is what we did while at the Ministry of Agriculture, or in promoting fish. We knew various communities in Kenya, some people were not eating fish. And so there was a strategy to promote the eating of fish so that we can create market for fish producers. And Eat More Fish campaign was started. And therefore, I think a campaign on eat more millet or eat more groundnuts or eat more of these foods needs to be initiated in our countries so that we can popularize and bring out the benefits, especially the health benefits of this food. It would be more easier to market these foods because of their health benefits than even marketing fish, giving the example I've just told you. And therefore, collaboration is very critical in ensuring that we push the market of these foods to even the cross-border levels. And so when finally, if we look at the trade, trade between countries is flourishing in other crops. I think we need to look at these crops, the millets of this world, the sorghums of this world, the ndengu, that is the cowpeas and all these kind of crops, and see what ratio are they occupying in the trade activities within the Global South countries. And that deliberate efforts should be made to ensure that when we are doing trade with India, for example, how are we doing as far as these specific crops are concerned? I know between Kenya and India, we have always been discussing and trying to find a way of accessing Kenyan lindens, which is part of these foods, into the Indian market. And so I think the discussion should be, we need to promote the national trade in this area of these crops. Because access to global markets is subject to a lot of other restrictions, and therefore we need to look at those restrictions, have bilateral discussions on how we can loosen the restrictions which are exist, either especially the non-tariff restrictions which are existing between the countries. And so, and this could be done again, leveraging on the frameworks which are existing between the various countries. And is talking between Kenya and India, we have various frameworks and MOUs which are existing. We have had JTC, we have had JCMs, we have various MOUs. And therefore, looking at all these arrangements which we have, we need to pinpoint and see which of these can the smart food business ride on, so that trade between the two countries can thrive. And so, moderator, the panelists, and everybody, I thought I would share just a more holistic framework on how I think we can drive the smart foods within the collaboration of the South-South countries. And with those few remarks, I want to thank you again for having me and for reminding me of this noble responsibility of looking at the farmers and seeing how this smart or resilient crop can be promoted. Thank you, and nice to have been with you this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I was looking through the sort of the key drivers or the key descriptors of smart foods: food, nutrition, health, good for the planet, which is the environment, water, and so on, and the farmers, their families and communities. And you managed to hit all of those beautifully, so thank you. I was also interested and started thinking, and I had to pull myself back. You said poor person's foods. And yesterday, I was thinking we were talking about some snacks made from these smart foods. And I was wondering how you price them so that the cheap ones, which are the millet and sorghum snacks, how you can price them so that people think they're still valuable. Because if they're too cheap, at least in the global north, you start thinking, oh, they're probably low quality. But these very products are not so expensive, and you can make good, tasty snacks, foods from them.
Yeah. And
then I was thinking about the fish, and then I'll get on to other matters. Sometimes, based on cost, I think that the fish that will deteriorate in storage if you're not careful, therefore can become more expensive, whereas some of the crops we're talking about, so nutritious and the storage is a little easier. But could I pose a question to both of you? In the South-South opportunities, what opportunities do you see for strengthening inputs? Inputs, the good inputs, because we're focusing on the planet, the environment, and water as well. So I'm thinking mostly of seeds, of knowledge, and then as you go further down the value chain, the machinery and so on. What's the opportunity that both of you see, one side from Kenya and one side from India, to support this South-South collaboration? Who would like to answer? The Deputy High Commissioner?
Maybe I can go fast and then...
Okay, go fast and then let him speak. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, there are a lot of opportunities existing in the South-South collaboration to improve the production and the imports of these smart foods, especially in the area of knowledge exchange, machines, and seeds. You remember I talked of the programs existing between India and Africa, where they already have sponsorships for training, and therefore more people can come to India because India have a well-developed research institutions on seed production, and therefore farmers or researchers in our area can actually access some of these scholarships so that they can come and learn more on the seed technologies, on how to breed better quality of seed in some of these crops, say millet, sorghum, and what have you, because hybrids will actually definitely ensure that the farmer gets good value for his labor. Again, so we have between Kenya and India arrangements where India can support knowledge or to bridge the knowledge gap. Again, between Kenya and India, we have arrangements on letters of credit in accessing machinery. So where situations where processing need to be done at a bigger scale, There is a possibility of accessing credit through the Indian Exim Bank so that some of this machinery can be accessed. But I'm looking at even not the huge machinery, I am looking at even the appropriate technologies with smaller machineries where groups in Kenya, for example, can come together and form an association and come and access this appropriate machinery, go and install it, and then produce the snacks you are talking about so that they can be sold in even in the airlines, can be sold in supermarkets, and it needs not be cheap. What I only meant was the price of selling a snack of sorghum, millet, and whatever, the value should trickle back to the farmer. Because what we've seen is the supermarket can sell a snack for this much, and then what the farmer gets out of that is really very minute, and therefore it becomes non-sustainable. Because unless the process is viable, one side of the value chain will collapse. And so to ensure that the entire value chain works, then everybody must build a win-win situation. So from where I sit, there is a lot of collaboration, especially between Kenya and Africa by extension with India, because India has really taken major strides in research and in manufacturing. So collaboration is very possible and critical there.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.